Hey guys, today I want to talk about something that's been bugging me for a while now. It's Agile, and specifically how Agile has completely derailed the way that we build software. I'm going to break down why Agile needs to go and more importantly, what we can do instead. And this isn't just a rant, we'll dive into real solutions that can actually work. Okay, if you're in the software industry, you've probably heard about Agile. It started with a simple idea, a manifesto if you may, designed to make software development more adaptable. And initially, it was great. But now it feels like we're just stuck in endless meetings and sprint cycles and retrospectives, and the actual development work is getting buried now. So let's dig into how we got here. So Agile came into play during the 90s when building software took years, and by the time it was delivered, it was already obsolete. So that's why the Agile Manifesto was introduced. It was meant to make software development faster and more adaptable. It emphasized individuals over processes and working software over documentation and responding to change over following a rigid plan. It sounds pretty good, right? But here's the catch. Over the years, the focus shifted. Agile turned to this rigid set of rules and ceremonies that feels more like red tape by the management team rather than actual development. Look at how Scrum operates today. They were created to make business stakeholders feel more comfortable, not to make developers more efficient. For example, daily stand-ups often turn status updates that no one really pays attention to. That's something that I did for my company, and I realized that's why I stopped doing it. Backlog refinements are just an excuse to talk about user stories and velocity. It's become more of a management tool now than a developer tool. In practice, Agile has failed developers, and one big issue is this turned into waterfall in disguise. We're still breaking down work into these mini waterfall phases, but with fewer tools and documentation. We're asked to estimate work that's often impossible to predict. It's like trying to guess how long a piece of string is before you've even unraveled it. A classic example is, have you ever been in a sprint where the team spends hours arguing about story points? Right? That's so annoying. All just to make sure that we hit some artificial velocity number. And even though it's called Agile, right, responding to change becomes a nightmare. By the time you've built out the MVP, the minimum viable product, the stakeholder changed their mind and you have to rework everything from scratch. So I've personally been in teams where Agile started off with good intentions, trying to make things more systemized, more smooth, but it went off rails very quickly. We had one project that was supposed to last 3 months. By the end of those 3 months, we spent more time planning than actually coding. Why? Because we were still locked into sprints that never accounted for the changing needs of the products. It was waterfall, just broken into 2-week chunks. Another example, a friend of mine working in a fintech startup, they were using Scrum religiously, but the constant retrospectives and sprint planning meetings were draining. Worse, the development cycles were so focused on velocity that no one really stopped question whether they were actually building the right thing. By the time they launched, the product was outdated, and this is exactly what Agile was supposed to prevent. So what's an alternative, right, Derek? Are we supposed to just scrap Agile altogether? Not exactly. The Agile Manifesto still has really great ideas, but we need to go back to the basics. Individuals and interactions over process and tools. People always comes first. That's what I believe. The best teams I worked with, they don't care about hitting some velocity number. They care about getting feedback quickly and just shipping fast. One solution is to focus on adaptive teams. These are the teams that can talk directly to stakeholders who understand the why, right? Not just blindly coding based on what people ask for, understanding the why behind what you're building. They don't need a formal stand-up every morning, right? Great people know what to do. They're in constant communication. If something happens, if something changes, they can pivot without feeling trapped in a sprint plan. Another idea is to go back to working software over documentation. Get things into the hands of users as fast as possible and straight up just change from there. Iterate from the user's feedback again and again and again. Build, test, iterate. Forget trying to map out every single edge case before launching. I've worked with companies who are like, no, you cannot have a single issue. But it's like just sitting down there and planning every single thing. It's pretty much impossible. It's so much better to just launch it to a beta team of users. And then from there, they will call out all the edge cases and you fix it after that. Lastly, instead of using rigid timelines, use feedback loops, right? Release smaller, usable features more often and gathering user feedback more often, every single day. A company and a team that builds and iterates on a daily basis is always going to move faster than one that moves bi-weekly basis, like Agile, right? Once every 2 weeks. Your end users should drive development. Development shouldn't be driven by a fixed schedule. Agile, in its original form, was supposed to make our lives easier, but over time it turned into this heavyweight system that's slowing us down. And the point here isn't to throw it out completely, it's to rethink how we use it. Let's get back to the basics. Focus on actual communication, building working software, talking to users, getting feedback, and building, testing, iterating, and launching, right? Responding to real changes, real feedbacks, understanding why behind each feature request, and not just some arbitrary sprint goals. So that's it. Agile needs to go, and at least in the form that it's in today. If you're stuck in a team that's bogged down by Agile bureaucracy, I challenge you to shake things up, right? Focus on what's important, which is the product ultimately, and your users. That's all that matters, right? Are you solving a problem for your users? The rest is just noise. I've seen startups making hundreds of millions of dollars without running on Agile. They're just building and making sure that at the end of the day, their users are able to solve the problems that needs to be solved. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What's your experience with Agile? Have you been in teams that make it work very well? And am I missing something? Or is it just another thing that gets in the way? So thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.